What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for MLB Sunday, August 7th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's MLB slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, we have a 9-game slate tonight, so let's take a look at the pitcher position. So a stud on the slate that I like is Aaron Nola, pitching against a low salary batting team, the Washington Nationals. Aaron Nola giving up a .679 OPS versus righties, facing 5 righties here tonight. But I like this pick because the Nationals have only hit 14 of his last 77 pitches. That's a 182 batting average and a pretty big sample size. So Aaron Nola is $10,800 FanDuel salary. He's $800 less on DraftKings, averaging 39 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 49, 24, and 65 fantasy points in the last 3 games. His record is 7-8, pitching an average of 97 pitches per game, and he has an ERA of 3.25. So I like Aaron Nola here versus the Washington Nationals. Okay, for a lower salary pitcher, take a look at Drew Rasmussen. He's pitching against a low salary batting team, the Detroit Tigers. Drew Rasmussen, pretty balanced pitcher here, giving up a .634 OPS versus righties. He's facing 3 lefties, 4 righties, 2 switch hitters, and the Tigers have hit 2 of his first 11 pitches. So it's a 182 batting average. It's a small sample size, but a good start. He's $8,200 FanDuel salary, $800 less on DraftKings, averaging 25 fantasy points per game on the season. He has an ERA of 3.06, record is 6-4, pitching an average of 81 pitches per game. So I like Drew Rasmussen here versus the Detroit Tigers. Okay, let's take a look at the catcher first base position. A stud that I like, I think he's a good home run hitter option here, is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. facing a low salary pitcher, Chris Archer. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., he bats better versus righty pitchers, batting a .967 OPS versus righties. Chris Archer, pitching his worst ball versus righty batters, 47% worse than his pitch to lefties, giving up a .779 OPS versus righties. There's no at-bats versus Archer yet. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is $4,100 FanDuel salary, $1,900 more on DraftKings, averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 9, 28, and 32 fantasy points in his last 3 games, and he scored fantasy points in all 5 of his last games, so he's been on fire. He has a batting average of .290, so I like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. here versus Chris Archer. Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching. If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal, all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won. And then we'll send you $25 PayPal. So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you. Now I also like Derek Hall. He's got a 45% batting advantage here over Corey Abbott, a low salary pitcher, Corey Abbott. Derek Hall batting a .918 OPS versus righty pitchers. Corey Abbott pitching 24% worse to lefties as he does righties, giving up a .854 OPS versus lefties. Derek Hall is $3,100 FanDuel salary, $200 more on DraftKings, averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season. Now, he had 4 at-bats last game, scored 25 fantasy points, and let's take a look here. His batting average is .273, and he did score fantasy points in all 5 of his last games. So I like Derek Hall here versus Corey Abbott. Okay, let's take a look at the second base position. I like Brandon Lowe with a 34% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Matt Manning. Brandon Lowe batting 7% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .830 OPS versus righties. Matt Manning pitching his worst ball versus lefty batters, 26% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .887 OPS versus lefties. Now there's no at-bats versus Manning yet. Brandon Lowe only $3,100 FanDuel salary. He is $2,100 more on DraftKings, averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored fantasy points in 4 out of his last 5 games. He has a batting average of .253. So I like Brandon Lowe here versus Matt Manning. Okay, let's take a look at the third base position. I like Luis Arraez. He's got a 12% batting advantage over what is a pretty good pitcher in Kevin Gausman. Now, Luis Arraez bats 21% better versus righty pitchers. Kevin Gausman only giving up a .617 OPS versus lefties. But I like this pick because Luis Arraez is 3 for 3 here versus Gausman. He's $2,900 FanDuel salary, $800 more on DraftKings, averaging 10 fantasy points per game on the season, and he has a batting average of .325. So I like Luis Arraez here versus Kevin Gausman. Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups. Okay, who do we have at the shortstop position? I like Bobby Witt Jr. with a 74% batting advantage over Cutter Crawford. Bobby Witt Jr. batting 13% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .773 OPS versus righties. Cutter Crawford pitching his worst ball by far to righty batters, 61% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .366 OPS versus righties. Bobby Witt Jr. is $3,300 FanDuel salary, $1,400 more on DraftKings, averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season, and he's been on fire the past 3 games, scoring 10, 22, and 22 fantasy points. He has a batting average of .257, so I like Bobby Witt Jr. here versus Cutter Crawford. Okay, moving on to the outfield position, I like Lourdes Gurriel Jr. with a 58% batting advantage over Chris Archer. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. batting 11% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .818 OPS versus righties. Chris Archer pitching his worst ball versus righty batters, giving up a .779 OPS versus righties. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. only $2,900 FanDuel salary, $900 more on DraftKings, averaging 9 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored fantasy points in all 5 of his last games. He has a batting average of .311, so I like Lourdes Gurriel Jr. here versus Chris Archer. Now, if you're looking for a value play here, take a look at David Peralta. He's got a 49% batting advantage over a low salary pitcher, Matt Manning. David Peralta batting 23% better versus righty pitchers, batting a .773 OPS versus righties. Matt Manning, he is pitching his worst ball versus lefty batters, 26% worse than his other pitches, giving up a .887 OPS versus lefties. There's no at-bats versus Manning yet. David Peralta is only $2,700 FanDuel salary and only $400 more on DraftKings, so I like that price on both sites. Averaging 8 fantasy points per game on the season, he scored fantasy points in 4 out of his last 5 games. He has a batting average of .251, so I like David Peralta here versus Matt Manning. If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this MLB slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again and good luck.